Greetings, I am Captain James Cook. Quite stunning if I do say so myself. I was a navigator, cartographer, and captain of the Royal Navy. But let's start at the beginning of my life, where it all began. I was born on October 27, 1728, in the village of Marton in Yorkshire, England. I was the second of 8 children in my packed family. In 1736, when I was about 8, me and my family moved to Airyholme in Great Ayton. My father had gained a new job there and his employer paid for me to attend postgrad school. After 5 years of schooling, in 1741, I started working for my father. During my spare time, I would go to the top of a nearby hill, Rosebery Topping. When I was 16, I moved 20 miles to Staples and got a job as an apprentice for William Sanderson. 18 months after not contributing enough work for William, I traveled to Whitby to apprentice for William's friends, John and Henry Walker. They were shipowners, and their neighbors were in the coal trade. For this new undertaking, I sailed on coasters between Tyne and London while selling coal. During this time, I learned the skills to one-day command a ship. These included algebra, geometry, trigonometry, navigation, and astronomy. After 3 years of apprenticeship, I was allowed to work on trading ships in the Baltic Sea. Later, in 1752, I passed my exams and progressed through the merchant navy ranks, and then, within a month of being offered a command vessel in 1755, I volunteered for the Royal Navy. In 1766, the Royal Society assigned me my first voyage. This expedition lasted from August 26, 1768 to July 13, 1771. I was to go to Tahiti on Endeavour, my ship, with a group of scientists to observe Venus pass between Earth and the Sun. However, I also had other orders to search for an unknown southern continent which supposedly kept the world in balance. I never found this place because now, looking back, there was never an unknown continent to begin with. To reach Tahiti, we had to pass Plymouth, England, and Brazil, and then go around Cape Horn. We arrived April 11, 1769. We stayed in Tahiti for a few months. After, I sailed to the Society Islands and named them after the Royal Society, our benefactor. We sailed and sailed to New Zealand, where we were attacked by the Maori, the island people, on October 6, 1769. However, I did become the first European to visit New Zealand. While we were there, we mapped 2 major islands there. The maps were slightly off, but they were still usable. We left and sailed to what is now Botany Bay, Australia. I claimed it for Great Britain. While we sailed, we had been damaged by the Great Barrier Reef, and the Endeavour had to make repairs in the northern Queensland. We completed repairs on August 6, 1770, and sailed to Pateva Java. Later, a great tragedy occurred when 30 members of my crew died from malaria on October 1770. We replaced the crew in South Africa. We returned to England on July 13, 1771. The voyage had lasted almost 3 years. I set off on my second voyage on July 13, 1772. However, on this voyage I had a partner, Tobias Fordynex. We set off on 2 ships, the Resolution and the Adventure. We sailed from Cape Town to South Africa and to Barvet Island. Then I became the first person to cross the Antarctic Circle. In the Arctic fog, we were separated in February 1773 and came together again in New Zealand, April 1773. Our team explored northern and eastern New Zealand. After exploration, our crew separated again. Tobias' group went back to England, and my group sailed from Cape Horn to the Cape of Good Hope, then returned back to England. My third voyage was my last. I left England on my ship, the Resolution, on July 12, 1776. My goal was to find a northwest route from North America to Asia. On October 18, 1776, I reached Cape Town, South Africa, and in early 1777 sailed the Indian Ocean to New Zealand. I headed onward to Alaska, and on the way I came upon the Christmas Islands, and named them the Christmas Islands, because I arrived there on December 25th. We sailed and sailed until we discovered Kealakekua Bay in the Sandwich Islands, which I also named after Earl Sandwich and is now called Hawaii. I ventured on to Alaska and searched for a Northwest Passage, and failed. I then sailed back to the Sandwich Islands. February 14th, 1779 was the worst day of my 50 years, the day I died. We left the Sandwich Islands after about a month's stay. We were not far off until all of a sudden our foremast broke and we had to return to the vast archipelago to make repairs. When we returned to make these repairs, one of our boats was stolen by a dangerous tribe. We threatened with fire, and I even went out looking. We did not find it. Finally, we threatened to kidnap their chief as hostage. As I attempted the kidnapping, the islanders had already blockaded the shoreline. So, as I made my way to the shore with the chief, a mob of islanders attacked and I was stabbed to death along with 4 of my marines. My ship sailed home and arrived in England on October 4th, 1780 without its captain. I was remembered for many different things: circumnavigating New Zealand, founding the Christmas Islands, Hawaiian Islands, and Botany Bay, Australia. However, I have been on many other adventures. Perhaps someday someone will discover them.